This is the all-new Honda BRV. This is Honda's answer for the very popular Hyundai Creta and has a big advantage on the Hyundai Creta as well. What is the advantage? Well, it comes with 7 seats as opposed to the Creta's 5. So is that enough to sway your vote in favor of the BRV, or has the Creta still got a trick or two up its sleeve? Well, we'll find out on the show today. Well, so here I'm inside the new Honda BRV, and as you can see, it's an all black cabin, and what that means is that the seats on this car will not get soiled rather easily. Overall, the quality of materials used is pretty decent. It feels very plush as well as upmarket. Seat comfort is good as well, support for the lower back is good, and because the seat scope is both wide as well as long, you will feel very comfortable on these seats on the long journeys. In terms of equipment, you get a lot of bells and whistles. You get automatic climate control on this top end version. As a standard, you get 2 airbags across all variants. So in terms of safety, this is a pretty well kitted car. Well, so here I'm inside the cabin of the Hyundai Creta, and immediately you will notice that the quality of plastics inside is much better than the Honda BRV, and also this cabin has that essential Hyundai feel-good factor which the BRV simply cannot match. And one of the reasons why it probably has that feel-good factor is because of this touchscreen over here. Remember, the BRV does not have a touch panel and also comes with a host of features, including rear parking camera as well as rear sensors, which the BRV also misses out on. Well, another area where the Creta is ahead of the BRV is in the seating position. You sit a lot more higher than you do in the BRV, and it gives you a much more commanding view of the road ahead. That, along with these excellent seats, means that those longer journeys should not be tiring at all. Well, by now I am sure that you know my height is 5'10", and I always do adjust the front seat for my driving position, and even then, as you can see, headroom is more than adequate over here. So this car is very good for anyone who's over 6 feet tall as well. Knee room is good as well, and there is place below the front seats where I can stretch my feet. The best part, of course, in this car is the fact that the floor panel is very flattish. There's a very minimal hump in it, but it's not too much, so whoever is sitting in the middle has plenty of place to stretch his feet, and this car really is a genuine 3-seater at the back. Well, here I am in the last row of the BRV seats, and as you can see, headroom is pretty adequate. Knee room is also surprisingly decent, but yes, it's not a place where taller adults will feel comfortable on long journeys. For short city stints, not an issue, but those long journeys, someone who is 5'10" will not be comfortable. Well, so here I'm in the second row of the Creta seats, and as you can see, headroom is more than adequate. Knee room is also pretty decent in isolation, and I have got place below the front seats where I can stretch my feet. But yes, compared to the BRV, space is slightly lower or less than the BRV. But the good thing is that it is a wide car over here, which means you can sit 3 occupants without any problems at all. And the floor panel also is very flattish, which means whoever's sitting in the middle has plenty of place to stretch his feet at. Well, the Creta has a rising waistline on the outside, which means that you get very small windows compared to the BRVs. And what that essentially means is that if you are sitting over here for those long journeys, you might end up feeling a little claustrophobic. Now let's check out the third row of seats on the Hyundai Creta. No, well, I'm just messing with you. I'm just trying to figure out if you are paying attention. There are, of course, no third row of seats on this car, which means that in terms of overall cabin space as well as practicality, it is the Honda BRV which has the edge. Well, so here I am driving the new Honda BRV, and remember, this car comes with 2 engine options. You get a diesel as well as a petrol motor. Well, in terms of the refinement of the diesel engine, it has been remarkably improved by Honda. Well, the diesel motor really is a punchy unit, and the best part is that it responds from a very low RPM, from around 1600-1700 RPM, which is very good for a diesel engine. Well, the other good point about this diesel, of course, is the fact that it's a very fuel efficient engine. Also, the gearbox on the diesel engine is pretty sporty to operate and has a very short throw. It's very slick. And the best part is that it comes with a 6-speed manual gearbox, and that extra gear gives it a lot of flexibility on the highway and also aids fuel efficiency by a long way. While talking about ride and handling of this car, Honda seems to have worked on the suspension really well, because at slow city speeds it does manage to soak in the bumps quite easily. Yes, you will have to slow down when you see a rumble strip, and that's because some of the sharper crevices do enter the cabin. The steering on the diesel motor feels a little heavier, but that's okay because the engine is slightly heavier up ahead. But in terms of responsiveness, it is a pretty sharp steering wheel and it is quick-witted. The best part about the BRV, of course, is the fact that these windows are really big, and they give you a feeling of a much more bigger and a much more brighter cabin than it already really is. Well, so talking about the diesel engines on the BRV as well as the Creta is like talking about chalk and cheese. Yes, these two engines are so different from each other, and the reason for that is that this engine on the Creta feels a lot more refined, a lot more peppy, and a lot more flexible than the one on the BRV. And unlike the BRV, which has a lot of diesel clatter even when you start it from cold or when you rev it hard, this one on the Creta, even when you are of course revving it hard or just starting it off from cold, does not have the same amount of clatter or noise as much as the BRV's diesel engine. So in that sense, this car definitely has the edge. Where it also has the edge is in its power output as well as its torque figures. Remember, this of course is a bigger engine. It's a 1.6 liter diesel engine compared to the 1.5 on the Honda BRV, and that little bit of extra cc definitely gives it a lot more of flexibility. Well, the best part about the Creta is the fact that it has a very punchy mid-range, and it also has a very solid top end. And what that means is that if you are someone who enjoys pushing his car on the highway, then you will really enjoy driving the Creta, because this car really has a wave of torque coming in as soon as you cross 2000 rpm, and that wave of torque goes all the way up to 4000 rpm, making it one of the better cars for those long highway trips. Well, this engine is so refined that if you're standing at a red light and the engine is turned on, the passengers at the rear will not be able to hear it, because it is so smooth and so quiet inside the cabin. Well, what also adds to the Creta's flexibility is this 6-speed manual gearbox that we are driving today. And when you are doing speeds of about say 100-110 kph on the highway, the engine is spinning at a relatively low 2100 or 2200 rpm, which is pretty decent, and the cabin is pretty relaxed and pretty calm, especially in the second row of seats, which makes this a very good car for those long highway trips. Well, one big downside on the Creta's engine is the fact that you have to wait till about 2000 rpm for all that torque to kick in and all that power to kick in, and before that the engine feels pretty lazy and unresponsive to throttle inputs, and that can be a little annoying if you are driving it in the city, because you will have to change the gears quite a bit to get the best out of it. But that said, the gearbox is a pretty slick unit, it's a pretty light unit, and doesn't really need a heavy hand to shift. So in that sense, shifting gears is not a big chore on this car. Well, another area where the Creta has the slight advantage over the BRV is in handling as well as the ride comfort, because this car offers you a much more pliant ride and a lot more flattish ride than the BRV does, and that's a good thing for those highway trips. Some of those small potholes and rumble strips do enter the cabin at slow city speeds, but on the highway the Creta feels a lot more reassuring than the BRV does. Well, most people who buy these SUVs buy them more for their image as well as their style, and those are two areas where the Creta clearly has the advantage over the BRV. It also has a much more refined as well as more powerful diesel engine, and along with that it also boasts of more useful features, areas which most people are willing to pay extra for. All those things along with the proper SUV looks means that even when it's time to resell after 5 years, this car will still be desirable and resale values will be very strong. And what all that really means is that unless and until you really need those 7 seats, it is the Hyundai Creta which has the clear advantage over the Honda BRV.